'Cause we're all geeks.
We're all weirdos.
Please don't sue us, Tom York.
Or is it Thom York? Or is it Thom York?
Hey, welcome to another Someone Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
And this week we have an interview with, we always have an interview. I don't even know why I say we have an interview because...
Guess this is a new one, folks.
Well, because you're introducing who is on the interview, so therefore you're saying it's more like
you could
this
say
week our interview is.
Yeah, the interview this week
with
featuring Drake.
God.
If only.
What would that be like?
He'd be like...
Sad. We
could
could
be
talk about
0
Degrassi.
to 0
I
to
watched
100 real
Degrassi.
quick.
Yeah. Remember when he was a Sprite-powered robot?
I do.
You ain't really fucked me way back when, but how about nah?
Last name ever, first name greatest.
Yeah, before every movie.
Yeah. But we don't have Drake this
This is
week.
not Drake.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, Drake fans.
I mean, we can hashtag Drake to this and maybe get some downloads.
Yeah, maybe. we've got Cullen Bunn, we've got Danny Luckert,
Yep.
and we've got Marie Enger.
Yep.
They're here to talk
Drake.
about and in spirit, Drake. In fact, they're here to promote their Image Comics series Regression out in comic book shops everywhere on Wednesday, May 10th, which is very much, I think, in the spirit of Drake. But
Yes.
let's let them explain it. And joining us this week, we've got Cullen Bunn, Danny Luckert, and Marie Enger talking the first issue of Regression. It's the new Image Comics horror series, debuts in comic shops everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, May 10th. I'm just going to say it's my sister's birthday, so now all of the internet knows it's my sister's birthday.
Holiday.
Yeah, everybody get Anne a copy of Regression. But folks, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
So it's this book, very surreal. Kind of, there's questions of sanity. Cullen, I feel like none of you guys are strangers to the horror game. Of course, Cullen, you did Harrow County. Danny, if I remember correctly, you did Haunted.
Yep.
Marie, you've done. What was it? Two Sisters and what was it? The Pistol Whip, which
are not horror.
Which are not horror. Though I have to say, like, a lot of horror I feel like takes place at night. A lot of this first issue, and, being the colorist, maybe you can speak to this as well, and some of your color palette choices, a lot of this first issue takes place during the day. Kind of gives the impression that, like, no time is safe.
No time is safe.
Yeah.
Did you think you were safe during the day? Well,
Yeah, right.
not.
Just when you thought it was safe to go out in the sun.
Yeah.
So what really draws you guys to the horror genre in general?
I've been asked that question a lot the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure I know the answer to it. It's the simple answer is I've just always liked being scared to some degree, and then the other answer is I feel like I'm comfortable writing horror stories. But then there's something more to it. I feel to some degree writing these terrible things happening to good people makes me feel like terrible things won't happen to me. So it's a little bit therapeutic for me, I guess. And I need a lot of therapy.
Get that catharsis out.
Yeah.
That's why I run a podcast. So.
We're all on couches right now. We're gonna get into the Jungian dream interpretation. Actually, with that book, it actually makes sense. But anyway, what brings you guys to the Danny, Marie? What do you kind of find?
I guess I'm pretty open to the projects I pick, and I don't know. It just seems to be a groove that I seem to find myself in, and I'm not interested in fighting it really. It's a lot of you get to draw a lot of fun stuff with in horror and all the gore and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
As a kid, I was afraid of everything. I couldn't actually watch any horror movies or read any horror books until I was about 18 or 20. And now as an adult, it's just kind of all I read. I think I just got gross at some point. And that's all I wanted to do.
What are you kind of into? Like the Junji Ito, like horror manga, or?
Oh yeah, I love Junji Ito. I love just creepy and dread sort of stuff, and surreal horror, and I don't know. I go through phases, all sorts of different stuff.
That Junji Ito stuff is amazing. I don't know if you guys, I've been reading his stuff for a long time, but now I just started reading Dissolving Classroom.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I just read the first couple of stories in that this past week.
It's so good. So gross, but so good.
I feel like there was a Viz, I think it was Ito that did like this almost Old Boy-esque story where this kid gets bullied by this girl and they meet up as adults and they fall in love. And it turns out that the entire thing was just a scam by the boy because he totally like leaves his wife and like emotionally like wrecks her. And that for me, there's something so disturbing about Japanese horror or just like.
Did the girl or the guy turn inside out or turn into some sort of horrible creature? Because then, yes, it probably is a Junji Ito story.
It hit all the notes.
Yeah. An Ito joint. Now, Cullen, you were mentioning catharsis and, the writing horror kind of is how you confront your own, has a therapeutic quality to it all. For our listeners at home that may not know this, your father, jack of all trades, but one of said trades was a stage magician that specialized in hypnosis. So, is this story really kind of coming from that personal place for you?
Yeah, absolutely. This book, the initial seed for this book was planted years and years ago when I was a kid. My dad was a stage hypnotist for several years. And then after he stopped performing on the stage, he would still do sort of semi-private group sessions. And in those group sessions, he would often do past life regressions, which are some of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen some weird stuff, but these regressions were just something special. And there was one in particular. He was, he did 3 or 4 regressions, with 3 or 4 different people, and everybody was going. Each of them were, talking about their past life and revealing these details of day-to-day life. In some cases, hundreds of years earlier. And then we got to this one guy, and he just, when my dad did the regression, he was just eerily silent the entire time. He just wouldn't respond to anything. And there was something about that kind of frightened me. There's something about his silence. My dad said, telling everybody in the room it was, he was a new soul and maybe he didn't have any other lives. But I always felt like there was something he was seeing that was just too. This is how my mind can take things to the worst possible place. I just felt like there was something in this past, whatever he was seeing, that was too god awful to talk about. And that moment is really where regression was born. It took a couple of decades after that for it to finally reach this stage. And it changed and grew in that time. But that's where it started.
Now you all have done horror books or just books in general elsewhere. Cullen, you're currently doing the Darth Maul thing. You just did Monsters Unleashed for Marvel. What made Image the right publisher to bring something as personal and horrifying as Regression to come to publish?
Well, I've been wanting to do something with Image for several years now, and Regression, and I've been talking to them for a while. Regression isn't the first thing I've pitched to Image. It's not the first thing that Image has accepted. It just the way schedules have worked out. It's the first thing that's going to be published, and I think early on. And Danny, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We talked about going elsewhere, and I think Danny kind of pushed it.
Oni was mentioned, Dark Horse, pretty much a lot of different publishers. But I'm really happy with Image kind of finally nailing it down.
Now, you guys are mentioning previous lives, all, sometimes centuries old. We're only one issue deep, but I feel like that gives you guys the opportunity to play with time periods, play with settings and that sort of thing. So as artists, how has that kind of experience been?
It's awesome. I mean, you could kind of go anywhere with this story, and right now we're in, I guess, a bit of the like Elizabethan era. So you get to explore all that, a lot of stonework and thatched roofs and all that fun stuff. But yeah, like you said, you could go to really the possibilities are endless. So there's a lot of fun stuff to draw.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that you're absolutely right. The possibilities are endless because one of the concepts of past life regression is that time is an illusion. There is no such thing as time, and all these things are unfolding simultaneously. And it's just how our minds have partitioned reality that makes us think we're living one life at a time. And just thinking about things in that way, this book can go anywhere.
So with that said, and you don't have to confirm or deny, does that mean we could also see, by our relative understanding, future lives for Adrian?
Well, what I will say is that where this book starts, it kind of seems like I think it starts in the place of this is a fairly it's definitely a horror story, and it's one type of horror story. And I think by issues 4 and 5, we kind of turn that on its ear, and the story starts really expanding from there, and it goes into places that I don't think readers will expect from the first couple of issues.
Yeah, you get to, as the issues progress, you kind of get to see more of almost like the mythology of this whole world that they're living in, and like what Sutter is actually into, like with the occult and all that stuff, and how deep it runs.
With this story, it's fantastic. Both the writing and the art's fantastic, but this one isn't for the faint of heart. You guys, you guys go for broke. There is some horrific stuff from like Jump Street that happens. So I have to wonder, like, in terms of rendering that, in terms of bringing that to life, both under the pencil or under the colorist's brush. How is that? How do you kind of strike that balance between the surreal and realism?
Mm-hmm. It was nice going with that other book I'd worked on, Haunted. It was horror, but they kind of gave it like a PG-13 limit. So it's kind of nice to, take the chains off a bit with this one.
Marie, did you
Oh, one sec. I think I got cut out. Oh, one sec.
I think the way Skype works is if like more than one person talks at a time, they're like, "You get to go." So
Skype makes a decision for you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Marie, you are a go.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, so to get to the heart of the question, how is it kind of rendering these horrific images through color, Marie?
I feels kind of messed up to say I enjoy it, but I enjoy it. I like coloring slime and blood and gore, so I don't know. It's kind of one of the more fun projects I get to work on.
And there's plenty of all that.
Right? That's exactly what I need.
And you guys mentioned earlier how so much of this story takes place in broad daylight, and I really that's Danny and Marie. That was their decision, and I think it works so well with the whole concept of you just don't feel safe, and I'm not sure people who listen to this interview will see it, but I'm thinking that people who read the book won't necessarily notice it until maybe even after the fact, because I think about being a kid watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and how that movie takes place completely in broad daylight. I mean, there's no night scenes in that movie, and it never dawned on me the first couple of times I watched it. It was just scaring the
You can
heck out of
cuss.
me.
Yeah, you can cuss on this, by the way.
Okay, well,
Let loose.
it was scaring me, and I but it never really dawned on me that it was all taking place in broad daylight, and really that I think again it takes that sense, that safety net away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I liked how, especially the opening with like a barbecue scene and all that kind of stuff, where it starts on a very, slice of life type of level, where it's just, a regular day, a regular, barbecue with a group of friends. There's nothing sinister about it until, the horror starts to creep in.
I'm assuming it's just going to escalate. I mean, you guys end, without going into detail, on a pretty big cliffhanger on this first issue. So, yeah, shit's going to go south pretty hard, I feel like.
Things escalate very quickly, and things get much, much worse. I'm often very cruel to my characters. And I'm not 100% sure, but Adrian may be more screwed than any other character I've written. I mean,
that's the perfect tagline.
He is so screwed.
There'll be times where I'll be reading the scripts that Cullen will be sending through, and I just don't know how he'll ever get out of some of these situations, or if he even will get out of some of these situations.
I assume he'll just die.
Yeah, right.
Like I would just roll over and be like, I'm done.
Yeah, right.
No character is safe in this series. And that goes, across the board. My favorite character in the book is Molly. And even Molly's not safe. And I love the character of Molly so much, but even that does not afford her any protection. It may actually be worse for her.
Yeah.
The funny thing about the book is Adrian looks a lot like one of our really good friends, Aaron, and so we're reading this just being like, oh God, because we Sam and I we do like a lot of con work for Image.
Yeah,
like we
I write
volunteer.
the magazine too. Yeah,
and so if you guys are ever at like one of the signings, Aaron does it too. We'll have to show you Aaron because he's like Adrian come to life.
Yeah,
and we see a
That's
familiar
awesome.
face.
Yeah, exactly.
Stay
Yeah,
clear of him.
It says like, I do not want to meet your friend.
Yeah, right.
Not at all.
I'm never gonna have
Just
a
assume
barbecue with
he's
Aaron.
a cosplayer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look at that guy. What a great
Yeah.
Adrian cosplayer.
This turns into a whole like stranger than fiction moment.
Exactly,
We
yeah.
just never hear.
I
from
saw him today, which is really weird. He moved back to the East Coast, which is actually terrifying me now.
Yeah. We just can't have barbecues.
That's
with
right.
him,
No
dude.
barbecues, no
Yeah.
beers.
Exactly.
He'll just see us with like maggots coming out of every conceivable
Yeah.
point of egress. So you invoked Texas Chainsaw, something we ask just about everybody that comes on the show. I mean, we of course also invoked like good old Ito-san, but what are some of your favorite bits of horror fiction or horror? I mean, horror real life too, if you guys want. There's plenty of it going around these days.
Oh my God, no. It's hard for me to pick a single thing. I mean, if we go into movies, I can name Alien and The Thing and Phantasm and the original Evil Dead kind of all compete for a top spot with me. And if you go into prose, I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft, but then I also Salem's Lot and Pet Sematary I think are pretty terrifying novels. Mm-hmm. And then, Junji Ito, as far as comics, I find it hard to think of anyone who has really topped his level of this. I don't know how to describe it. It's an almost absurd. His stories are almost absurdities, but they're terrifying at the same time.
They, I would say mine would. I don't dive too deep into horror books per se, but with the movies, just especially with it getting the remake and everything like that. That original movie, messed me up for quite a few years with clowns. It was a very real fear. And then like kind of your classics, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and I'd watched House of a Thousand Corpses recently, and I don't know. It brings back a lot of bad memories from like when you see it the first time when you're younger. So I try to stay away from as many horror movies as possible.
I've been on a crazy Laird Barron kick recently, and I've just blown through all his books and all of Paul Tremblay's books, and I am Hellraiser trash completely. Those are some of the first horror movies I watched when I was a kid, which was too young for that completely, and may explain a couple things, but I watch whatever horror movie is placed in front of me, for better or for worse. Just can't get enough. Ugh, makes me sound so gross.
Have you checked out the Scarlet Gospel yet?
Yes.
Is it good?
Noted.
Gotcha.
I enjoy Clive Barker's writing to an extent.
Gotcha.
But Scarlet Gospels was a book that I read in an afternoon.
Oh.
I also finish everything I read. Everything I start reading, I finish. So I finished it. It's done. Wasn't probably my favorite book.
Gotcha.
You know, it's interesting because Clive Barker, I feel like his short stories are amazing. To me, you're hard pressed to find better short stories. And I've never connected with his novels in the same way. You know, I read Scarlet Gospels, and I enjoyed it for, I guess, sort of the continuity geek in me, and liked it because I like Harry D'Amour, and so it was interesting to see him in that, to see those worlds kind of combining. But yeah, I think I get what Marie's saying. I love his short stories, but I've never connected it with the novels in the same way.
That was
actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, actually, his one of his books of blood was the only book I didn't finish. I had to drop it in a library slot because it was giving me terrible nightmares. It was so bad I couldn't keep it in my house anymore.
Oh.
Sounds pretty effective.
It was awful. It was so gross.
Well, Cullen and Danny, you guys both invoked Texas Chainsaw. Marie, you invoked Hellraiser. This is something else we tend to ask horror writers. Are you guys team Michael Myers, team Jason Voorhees, team Freddy Krueger, team Leatherface, or team Pinhead?
I'm a Freddy guy.
Pinhead.
You know, I'm a Michael Myers guy probably. I just I remember the first time I saw. I think I saw Halloween 2 before I saw Halloween. Okay. And there's a scene in Halloween 2. I walked into a room and this scene was playing where he spoilers, people. Michael Myers kills people. But there's this scene where he stabs this nurse in the back with a scalpel, I think, and lifts her off her feet.
Yeah.
And her feet are twitching. Her feet are twitching, and there's something about her feet twitching just absolutely just terrified me. It was horrifying to me. So I think that was the first Halloween movie I watched, and then I went back and I watched them. You know, the first one I've watched all the Halloween movies, the great ones and the terrible ones. I've watched them all many, many times. Even
Halloween Resurrection, where it becomes canon that Busta Rhymes is stronger than Michael Myers.
I don't understand. That's all right. When I say "and the terrible one," that's the one. That's the one that I just can't get behind. Honestly, I think all of them are enjoyable except that one.
I think is it 4
No
where
joy was found.
You have not watched that one the right way.
Yeah, maybe not.
The best kill with the shotgun I think I've ever seen in a movie is in 4, where instead of firing it, he impales somebody through a wall with a shotgun. That's
right.
One of the
best. So what is it about Freddy and Pinhead, respectively, that both Danny and Marie, that you guys find particularly appealing?
I just kind of like how it was almost no defense against him. It was just, your dreams, and you almost have no control of. If you're not controlling your dreams, then, he is, I guess. So it was just something, I guess, the lack of control, that he had all the power and you were in his, not even like, he was a slasher and you're in the real world, but you were 100% in his world. and he could do anything, and just kind of, I don't know, your worst fears can then just be realized by him. I thought it was very, touches, I don't know, a very base instinct, I feel.
Yeah. Which, again, I feel like Regression kind of touches on a lot of that, the idea that, sleep isn't safe. Like, it starts to bleed into your life.
Oh, yeah. And just like the lack of control that, something's coming, but you're not going to be able to stop it.
And then, Marie, what is it about old Pinhead that does it for you?
Danny's got this very philosophical answer. I think his costume looks cool.
Hey, that works.
Oh, yeah, and I like Freddy's claws.
I watched Hellraiser for the first time when I was really, really drunk in college.
Oh.
And I could not stop laughing the entire way through. The first movie is just so super 80s and so, like, the blood is super fake and that guy coming up through the floor and there's some of those horrible, horrible dialogue, and I just loved it.
We are going to fight.
But the creature effects are so cool on Uncle Frank.
Uncle Frank coming up, but then he says, "Hey, little girl, want a cookie?" and that takes away from the coolness. I don't watch a whole lot of 80s movies anymore. I'm a 90s kid, and going back to like the days before CGI is kind of weird for me. So don't judge me.
I'm not judging.
Can you see me shaking my head through that?
I'm literally withering over here. I feel like I'm getting older by the second.
I can hear it. I'm going to come stand next to you in Kansas City, and you're just going to anxious.
Because my interest in horror actually started because my dream at one point was to be a special effects makeup artist. And to do very practical effects. And of course, I would have been out of a job by now, but that's what I really wanted to do.
I'm sorry, Cullen. Except I'm not sorry enough to watch all the 80s movies.
You could be like Corey Feldman in Friday the 13th Part 4, where he's a child but somehow a master of like special effects makeup and masks.
And moonwalking.
Yes.
Have we had anybody, speaking of Friday the 13th, that's picked Jason? It's been pretty... honestly, it's been Michael Myers, except for the cannibal team, I think was... what's her name? Jennifer was pro Leatherface.
Yeah.
And we get a fair smattering of Freddy Krueger.
People have said Leatherface.
Yeah,
Leatherface.
Yeah.
Look, I liked Jason beating up on Freddy Krueger.
That was
Freddy
awesome.
Jason.
Right? I feel like that movie was one of the greatest comedies ever.
We kind of have a consensus here on the show that Freddy vs. Jason is one of, if not the best, Friday the 13th movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because...
It's hands down the best Jason Friday the 13th movie. Yeah. It may not be better as a scary movie. I mean, it's not scary, but it may not be better than the first Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. But as far as Jason movies goes, it is the best Jason movie.
Yeah, what else do you got to choose from? Jason X?
Yeah.
Jason X.
God.
He does get turned into a pretty sweet cyborg.
Yeah. And the liquid nitrogen kill. Thank you.
Yeah. Nothing's better than when they pull Freddy out of like the dream world and Jason's there and it's like playing the most
heavy metal,
the new metal, and he's just like and he's just like throwing them through, and then you realize like they're just meat.
WrestleMania was just a couple.
Just hitting each other.
I just got chills thinking about that scene.
The arteries spraying everywhere.
Notes to hit.
But for me, it's when they're in the dream world. And Freddy is playing pinball with Jason.
That's my least favorite part. Come on, guys.
That just epitomizes everything that I love about Freddy Krueger right there.
Right.
So I do.
That's where Freddy lost me. Post Dream Warriors, his kills started getting a little too ridiculous.
Yeah. Fair enough. You don't like him like locking lips with a girl after saying, "Hey, want to suck face," and then he just sucks everything out of her.
Stuff. It's just it's the human pinball aspects and the sound effects for a pinball machine. It takes me. It kind of kills the horror element.
Fair enough.
You can compare the first movie where there's a girl in a body bag walking down the hall of a school versus Magic Pinball Game, and it's two very different kinds of horror.
Yeah.
Now, this is even more tangential, but actually there ties to the regression a bit. Have you ever listened to the Dream Theater album, like Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory?
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Yes.
How often have you guys gotten that question?
That's the first time you guys win the prize. I can.
Yes.
I feel such shame now. Oh.
Marie's just sitting there. Was it that obvious?
Gotta listen to something while you work.
Over
a
and
long
over
one.
and over again.
Yeah.
I thought I was so cool.
We like Dream.
No, yeah, I own all their live DVDs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The sequel will be 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence
Yes.
or something.
Oh. I can't take it. Oh.
So is that like is that across the board, or is that just like, you know, because I'm kind of getting like the horror vibe from Marie.
It's just like, you know, when you were like a kid in high school and you're like, I'm going to listen to this music that no one else is listening to. I'm going to be so cool. For me, it was Depeche Mode and Dream Theater. And I'm not cool. And I wasn't cool then, and I'm not cool now, but now I'm just ashamed.
Yeah, no,
I don't think I've ever
We all
even
had
heard
trench
of Dream
coats.
Theater before this.
Oh, you should listen. You should listen.
Octavarium is a fantastic
Oh.
album.
They're
Octavarium's
wonderful
the best.
musicians.
they're
are,
very
but that's
talented.
Classically trained.
they're so good that they're ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
They've like crossed that boundary. Like when super smart people become idiots, they are so talented that they just became cartoons.
Yeah.
James Labrie, we're looking at you.
Oh. I say that with love, by the way.
Of course.
Oh, they're the
On the
best.
off chance that they ever hear this.
Yes,
I
yes.
say it with
Oh
love.
God, if Dream Theater ever heard
They,
this,
you know, they
that'd
are
be the
regular
greatest.
listeners. They,
Yeah.
they tweeted us all.
Yeah, send it to Portnoy. He'll love it.
Well,
Then
if
we
they
can.
want to have a comic book adaptation of their adventures, they know who to contact.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be like
You
a
hear that, Dream
500-page comic book.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just the first song.
Yeah. If you like 25-minute songs with 27 time signature changes, and
Ugh.
it's the best. I love Dream Theater.
Speaking of which, yesterday I saw someone post something on a Facebook or something that was like, today's just to get it out there, you know, reveal, lift the veil or whatever. Today is the 5th of April. Just whenever this comes out, I'm not even sure. But
I got it on the calendar.
yeah. So yesterday was the 4th of April, and someone posted, "Oh, today's all prog rock's least favorite day because it's 4/4."
Oh.
Yeah.
This is completely going over my head.
Neil Peart rolling in his grave.
Yeah.
I'm aware he's not dead.
That's such a long setup for such a mediocre joke.
That's the show, really.
Yeah. The longer the better for the prog joke.
That's true. That's true.
So
Our kids loved that joke.
So-
It was so long.
to take it back to the book, there's this idea that you're drawing. Not only are there are secrets in the past that you don't want to revisit, but once they're revealed, you know, the cat's out of the bag. Nobody's safe. Like something is being drawn out of the ether, so to speak. Where was that kind of something that was inspired by your father hypnotizing the guy that refused to divulge what he was seeing?
Maybe to some degree, but it was, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's definitely something that's part of this book, but it's also there's sort of an undercurrent, this idea that we're kind of doomed to repeat mistakes over and over again, and there's this double page spread in the first issue where you're seeing moments from Sutter's life and then moments from Adrian's life, and some of that stuff that we're seeing we're going to revisit, and a lot of it kind of ties together. It's things that it's sort of like this cursed cycle, of terrible things going on, over and over, and some of that maybe comes from the idea that everyone you ever meet you've already met before, and that's why some people you have an instant connection to, and some people you dislike from the get-go. and some people will tell you that the reason for that is you've met them and had interactions with them in previous lives. That's not me saying I believe or disbelieve. I'm just saying that's a concept that I kind of like.
Well, so is there kind of this underlying theme throughout the entire series that, almost this free will, this idea that you're kind of bucking against a cycle, bucking against a samsara, so to speak, to get it all spiritual for a second, or to kind of this desire for autonomy?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of the story, probably bigger than you really realize at this point. And it's a part for it's something that every character is really going to have to deal with at some point. And if you think about hypnosis, at a core level, and one of the reasons I would never want to be hypnotized is because I don't want to let anyone else have that kind of control over my faculties, and I don't want to lose my will. I don't want my willpower to be broken in that way, and that really just at that surface level there's that, but then it gets deeper and deeper because Adrian is kind of bucking against his past and will be struggling with his own willpower against Sutter, but we find that Sutter has struggles of his own in that same regard, and so do almost all of the major characters in the story.
Yeah, where you don't really know if Adrian's like the next link in a chain or if he's on a completely separate chain,
Right.
Forging his own path, hopefully. But yeah, so something we ask everybody that comes on the show, guys. What are you currently geeking out over?
I guess I'll start. I'm big into Invincible. I know it's a completely different genre, but with the end coming in and they're ramping up the last arc, I'm in it.
And it just got greenlit for adaptation.
Yeah. I'm super psyched about that. And yeah, I love my superheroes.
Any particular favorites among the superhero world? I was thinking of some clever way to say that, and then I was like,
world.
I'm just
where are you going with that?
Yeah. They got capes.
Yeah.
Some
masks.
Yeah.
Powers.
But yeah, any particular stand out, Danny?
For what do you mean? Like,
who's your favorite superhero?
Yeah.
Green Lantern, easy.
Which Green Lantern?
It's not so easy.
I'm a Kyle guy. He was on the first JLA that I read, so
yeah.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Domino Man.
Sorry, when
Excellent.
I misheard you the first time, and I just heard Guy, and I was like, "Oh, Guy Gardner, really?"
Boo.
But yeah, Kyle, that's cool. Yeah, I can get behind Kyle.
Yeah, we good.
Yeah.
Right, Omega Man was good.
Cullen, Marie, you guys geeking out over anything lately?
Marie, what are you geeking out over besides Dream Theater?
Yeah.
You do know that now, as soon as she signs, she's already called it up on Spotify, all the Dream Theater songs. She's going to start playing them as soon as this interview's over.
So for the next week, she's
take
queued
you
up for
3 years to finish one of their albums.
I may even become a convert to them. Yeah.
I feel like you.
Two playlists or something.
I cannot believe this. I'm so embarrassed, but that is actually what I did.
Music's already queued up.
I have to work late tonight, and so it is actually pulled up.
Do you have a favorite album?
God damn, no. It's been years since I've listened to any of it. No.
Oh.
But in order to save face, just a little bit. I just got a record player, and so I've been
nice.
geeking out really, really hard over records lately. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Jeff Rosenstock. No, crickets. That's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, you
got your cred back.
Yeah.
You can listen to Jeff Rosenstock and read Rumble and lie on the ground and watch the new Samurai Jack, and you will have the perfect night. All of that together.
Yeah, those new episodes of Samurai Jack are insanely good.
They're killing me. Every single one. I just keep crying and crying.
It's so beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's emotional.
And Marie, maybe you can speak to this a bit. I feel like almost like there are so many scenes in the new Samurai Jack. They're almost like masterclass in like color study.
Oh yeah, I've been taking screen caps because it's just amazing. And I grew up with no cable, and so I didn't watch Samurai Jack until I was in animation school. But pretty much everything I learned about color and background design I learned from Samurai Jack. So I'm having a weird emotional moment with the ending of the series. It's coming at a really crucial time for me, and it just feels cosmic in its own way.
It's like, yeah, you the student becomes the master as the master comes to a close. This is where Obi-Wan just becomes nothing and
just a
imparts,
robe.
yeah, and imparts his wisdom to you.
I hope that's not how Samurai Jack ends. I really do. Yeah.
With
Guest
Dream
appearance
Theater
by
in the
Marie Enger.
background.
Yeah. Dream Theater's next concept album.
Yeah, yeah. Or
We
it could,
had actually, I took a class, and it was in like storytelling, and one of the classes was just to deconstruct the beginning of Samurai Jack when he's going like across the globe and everything like that, and going to all the different lands.
mm-hmm.
It was they put a lot of thought into that show.
Well, and we had Jim Zub on the show, I guess in February, and he had written the Samurai Jack comic for IDW, and we were asking him like, what do you think it is about this show that like, why it has an enduring legacy and why it's come back to such acclaim? And he's like, well, it's every episode is like self-contained. Like there's the Snork episode, or there's the 300 episode. Yeah. So Samurai Jack is just so damn.
Yeah,
cool.
you could just throw on anyone in any order, and it's still gold.
I would say, and this may be a little bit of a stretch, but part of the appeal also is it contains all culture. And for a group of people, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know that the culture that my family comes from is pretty diluted. It's kind of neat to see everything together and really be able to say, oh, this is how culture around me is. There's so much going on at the same time. And it's interesting to see that pushed to an extreme degree in a cartoon for children. And I guess one adult lying on their floor, listening to Jeff Rosenstock and reading Rumble.
Cullen, what you got what have you been geeking out over?
You guys heard of this show, Designated Survivor?
With Kiefer Sutherland?
Kiefer.
The Kiefer madness.
Listen,
Now
I don't know.
wither.
I was saying that as a joke, but I got to be honest with you. I don't know what it is about that show, but before this interview, I watched the last 2 episodes, and I'm super psyched because there's another episode on tonight. So there's something about that show I really like.
It's got you hooked.
It does. It has got me hooked in a big way.
We should make that a hashtag, Kiefer Madness.
Kiefer Madness.
I think we can.
Kiefer Madness. Well, I do. I mean, I admit, I kind of want at some point for the president to say, I'm really Jack Bauer, and I've been undercover all this time. But I just like there's something about that show. I like the different levels of conspiracy and things just going terribly, terribly wrong for people left and right. But beyond that, I've been reading Rick Remender's Low, and I think that book's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing about Lowe is at first it just started out like, for some reason I'm always invoking the Snorks today.
Yeah.
It started out as like this just kind of like underwater adventure, and then there's like bug people, for Christ's sakes. Like
it goes into some real play, and it's just, I mean, it's a beautiful book. I mean, it's I can't pronounce his name. Greg, is it Takini?
Yeah.
I mean, he is making that underwater book about bug people look amazing. And then, I've been really getting into a lot of old comics lately. I was a big comic collector as a kid, and I still buy comics, but I wouldn't say I was collecting comics. But I got into having my books bound in hardcover, all my old comics. And that's made me get really interested in collecting comics again, and checking out books that I may not, have read before, only because I see a collection of books, a complete run of, Machine Man.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's a great book, but I'm going to get them and get them bound up because that's fun. and and so I'm reading a lot of books that I haven't necessarily read before that are just older stories, and I'm geeking out over that stuff. Like right now I'm in the middle of collecting all the Eternals comics, and I'd read the old Jack Kirby stuff, but now I'm reading the stuff that's come after Jack Kirby and enjoying that stuff, and I'm rereading old Defenders comics and old Thor comics.
Oh, like the Simonson stuff?
Well, I love the Simonson stuff, but as I was getting into this, I wanted to bind up my Simonson books because that's what I think of as, sort of the height of Thor comics. But then as I was doing it, I started looking at probably the 50 issues that came before the Simonson stuff. And those are books I remember just absolutely loving as a kid. I mean, just being wowed by them. So I've kind of revisited those runs on the book as well. And that's when Thor was, encountering the Eternals and stuff like that. But it was just they were amazing issues, and I think they kind of get forgotten because of the Simonson stuff was so awesome.
I do have to ask, while we got you here, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, in fact. How cool is it to be given the keys to an X-Men book?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's I just wrapped up my run on Uncanny X-Men. And that book meant a lot to me because, again, going back to my dad and I collected X-Men together and Uncanny X-Men. He was not a fan of comics, but he enjoyed the act of collecting comics. He liked negotiating with comic book dealers, and he liked hunting for back issues and things like that. And we collected X-Men together. So writing Uncanny X-Men was a big deal to me, and for that reason, and now, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm writing X-Men Blue, which launches in a week, whenever this airs, but a week from the night we're recording, and that's pretty exciting too. I was a big, a big X-Men geek, and I still am. I still love those comics. I sold the collection that my dad and I built to pay for college, so I'm trying to recollect them again on my own.
Yeah. You could always do it under the auspices of research now.
Well, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I do it under the auspices of research, but yeah, it's not as easy to recollect them these days because I swore to myself I won't buy a comic book unless I see it. Like I won't go on eBay and buy a comic. I have to find the comic in the wild in order to buy it for my X-Men collection.
You've got like a Bushido code of collection.
Yeah, but it's
free roam comic.
Yeah, it's trying to get the joy of collecting again, and I think that's something that a lot of people just don't get. But the thrill of the hunt for comic books was so exciting for me as a kid, and it was collecting was never as much fun as it was when I was collecting X-Men that first time. And so now it would be much easier for me to complete a collection, but I don't want to cheat myself of that experience of finding comics in the wild.
Right. It's like Pete Postlewaite in Lost World, Jurassic Park. He wants the challenge of it when he's hunting the T-Rex.
That's a pull.
Yes.
That's a pull.
You know what? A lot of times
Perfect
when I'm out
analogy.
looking for old issues of X-Men, I think to myself, this is a lot like hunting a T-Rex.
Yeah. What would they do in the Lost World?
That is exactly how I feel, and I'm glad that someone has finally put it to words.
Finally, Sam was able to relate to someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
T-Rex comparisons and prog rock jokes.
Yeah,
That's what we have.
The podcast is complete.
Yes. This will be the last episode.
Can I call it right now? This has been one of my more favorite interviews.
Oh, absolutely.
We're delightful.
But yeah, so before we sign off, you guys want to tease issue 2 of Regression? And do you guys have anything else you want to plug while we got you on?
Well, issue 2 of Regression has some dirty, dirty sex in it.
Oh, yeah.
So just if you... I mean, literally, some dirty, dirty sex. But
All right.
Oh, like rolling around in the mud. Gotcha.
so if that's the kind of thing that floats your boat,
Had to do a lot of research for those pictures.
I can. What was your Google what did Google tailor to your search history after this?
Oh, I have no idea what the government thinks I'm up to right now. It just
How many computers did you throw?
disgusting types of bugs and weird chaos magic symbols. It's all over the place.
And now your ISPs can sell all that information.
Yeah, right?
They're not going to want to come near any of us.
Just red flags everywhere.
They're just going to be too scared.
Yeah.
the reason I started writing Regression, forget that stuff about my dad being a hypnotist. I just did it to justify my search history.
Yeah.
How do I turn all this
Yeah.
into a book?
Yeah.
Right?
that's-
Look up your history and find the common thread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
But
that's we did the same thing with this podcast. We realized we're 3 grown men that still have huge comic book collections. We should do something with it.
Yeah. And prog rock
Yes.
and T-Rex.
Where can we talk about Ghost Rider and Dream Theater? Right here.
Is there a way to throw in Pinhead and Freddy Krueger?
How do I get Jason Latour to randomly scream fried chicken on my program?
Happened. That's a fact. It happened.
That was a good episode.
That was
But yeah, so do you guys have anything else you guys want to plug while we got you on?
I don't really have anything else that I'm currently working on, but I mean, people can always check out, those haunted books by Red 5. And I worked on this zombie comic with this writer, David Pritchett, which was amazing. And it was, a lot of fun and even more gore and all that kind of stuff. So you could find that on, Amazon.
I do a lot of self-published horror stuff. And so on my web store, you can grab a copy of We Are in a Dark Place and Punk's Win. And I know you guys joked about a Dream Theater comic.
Oh, that was not a joke.
Oh.
That was the most serious thing I've ever said on this podcast.
Yeah, we listened to their cover of Love Lies Bleeding off Change of Seasons.
You just missed 3 grown men lean forward into their microphones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excitement.
Yes.
So it may have been a joke for Dream Theater, but I'm actually working with a band called Pup on a comic adaptation of a couple of their songs.
Cool.
And if you're going to be at Lollapalooza and a couple other punk shows in the summer, that's going to be there.
Ooh.
Some
sweet.
Weird horror comic and punk merge.
Here's
Nice.
here's a random question. Marie, do you listen to the Swedish metal band Ghost?
Yes.
Where do you guys find these people?
We have been on such a ghost kick recently.
We were all air drumming different instruments to Square Hammer before we started this.
Air drumming different instruments?
We were
Yes.
all air drumming different
Well, you were
instruments.
air guitaring the organ.
That's how intense Ghost is. Yeah. Air drumming and air organing when there's no organ to be aired.
Yeah, no, I recently decided that Square Hammer was going to be my entrance music if I ever became a professional wrestler.
You could pick worst songs.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a
That's
good
going to
one.
be my name when I start hunting vampires.
Square Hammer. The music. If you look up the music video. It's like great 1920s silent
Vaudevillian,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're really cool. Their imagery is amazing.
Yeah, and they were on Colbert
Yeah.
And
they
I
performed a live exorcism.
during Cerise.
Yeah. Or demonism because they were pulling out an angel.
They were playing
right?
on an angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
they're
'cause
satanic.
he's the satanic band, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Cullen, you got anything you want to plug?
I'm always working on a bunch of different projects. Probably besides Regression, I'm returning to the book that really started it all for me. A little over 10 years ago, my introduction to professional comic book writing was a book called The Damned from Oni Press. And it was a book I did with my good friend Brian Hurt, who went on to work on The Six Gun with me. and we are returning to that book. We just re-released the first trade paperback, now in full color. It was a black and white book to begin with, but now in full color. We re-released the trade paperback at like a $10 price point, and we're returning to The Damned as an ongoing series that starts up in the next couple of weeks, I guess, or next few weeks. Probably right around the same time as Regression. So while you're in the store picking up Regression, you can pick up The Damned as well. But it's if you're not familiar with it, it's a 1930s mob story, but the mob is run by demons, and it's a fun book, and I'm really excited to be able to return back to that and tell the story that Brian and I wanted to tell from the beginning.
Sweet, yeah. And, of course, keep an eye out for X-Men Blue and Darth Maul.
Yes, X-Men Blue comes out. Like I said, the first issue hits in the next week or so, and Darth Maul, we're right in the middle of it. And my book Harrow County from Dark Horse is still going on. And if you're a horror fan, it's probably right up your alley as well.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning the Lovecraft. There is definitely kind of that vibe going on there.
Yeah, I think a lot of my stuff probably has a little bit of that.
Sure.
has some Lovecraftian elements.
Just bleeds in.
It wouldn't surprise me if some of my editors would give me the note, fewer tentacles this time, Cullen.
Can't tell you how many times I've gotten that note.
Yeah. This is a Power Pack book. Why are they taking on? But all right, well. Again, Regression is out in comic book shops and Comixology on Wednesday, May 10th. So, yeah, definitely check that out. And, guys, thanks for coming on the show.
All right, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
That was a lovely chat.
Indeed.
Anytime we get to invoke Ghost and Dream Theater.
Oh,
true.
Yes.
Yeah. And we finally got, because I feel like it had been almost, unanimous that everyone was, Michael Myers. So it was good to get some, diversity in that.
Yeah.
In that question.
We've got obviously Michael
Agreed.
Myers reigns chicken supreme for obvious reasons, but
Chicken Supreme.
And a chicken supreme.
yeah, a little Tenacious D. But we've had Leatherface in there, we've had Pinhead in there,
Jason,
and Freddy. We've had them all.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for somebody to say
Pennywise. Pennywise. Someone will say Pennywise eventually.
Yeah. No one said Scream. Ghostface, right?
Ghostface Killer.
Yeah, nobody said that yet.
What else?
Chucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whoever says Chucky, we're just gonna unplug.
Sorry, Child's Play fans.
Yeah,
But yeah, again, Regression
biggest.
out Wednesday, May 10th. Yeah, you guys getting anything?
Well, I've done a couple things since our last meeting. I have gone to two. Count them. Two.
I just got dosed by you.
Oh, good song.
2 Nats games.
I just you. Sorry, it's stuck in my head now.
That was the first Chili Pepper song I learned how to play on the guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Closer than most I am. It's like
You're singing it like Blink.
no, I'm singing it like Smashing Pumpkins.
If Smashing Pumpkins were covering a Blink song.
Yeah.
I've seen Billy Corgan with Zwan.
Oh.
Way-o, 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 way-o. Good song.
Yeah, it's a winner. By the way, my favorite Chili Peppers album.
So the Nats are fun. I'm not a huge sports person, but I do enjoy a good baseball match.
You like wrestling? That's sports.
That's true. It's sports entertainment.
Sports entertainment.
But like the quote unquote legit sports, because people care. But so I enjoy of the bald sports. Baseball is my tops. Get it? Because trading cards.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, so I do thoroughly enjoy seeing a baseball game in a ballpark, and so that's what I did. Went opening day, which we're recording this on a bit of a delay, so it's been a while by the time that you're listening to this since opening day. And then I went to another game the following week. And it was a very enjoyable time. Got to have a hot dog in Nats Park, which that's a great tradition to have a hot dog
They
and
always
a beer.
taste better in a ballpark.
They do. They serve kettle corn as well, and that was quite nice. Jesus. I am a sucker for kettle corn. If anyone's trying to kidnap me, just give me a bag of kettle corn and I am yours.
That is, or your birthday.
yeah. Birthday's coming up, guys. Give me some. Well, by the time this comes out, my birthday will have come up. But where were my presents? Got mine from Sam. It's fine. It's right there. It's Taffin on Laserdisc.
Maybe you shouldn't
be living here.
But yeah. So and they won both games that I was at.
That's what they did today.
Whoo! Got beat. Yeah. The second game I went to versus the Cardinals. Quite the shutout ultimately, or it wasn't a complete shutout. The Cardinals made a couple runs, but the Nats I think did get like 12-2 or something along those lines.
Ass stomp.
Yeah, stomp. There was one inning. There was one inning where they went through their batting lineup. Like I was like, that's Bryce Harper. Wasn't he already up at bat? And didn't he already get like a home run this inning or something like
He's
that?
playing really well right now.
Yeah.
He wants that Yankees money after this season.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Better shave that beard then.
Oh.
Can't be having a beard on the Yanks.
Still have
what
yet.
happened to Johnny Damon?
Yeah. Still have yet to go to the Ben's Chili Bowl in Nats Park, which I hear is quite nice.
It's better than the Steak and Shake.
Well, that's because Steak and Shake isn't that great. You heard it here first,
folks.
folks.
Have you ever gone
First
things first. I'll eat your brains.
I do not like
Chris
steak.
is both fierce and first.
Yes.
I think it's the new Drake single. Fierce, all right.
But yeah, no, I don't get the allure. Like it's a burger, you know, it's a milkshake. But like I don't get what's so great about Shake Shack or Steak and Shake either.
Oh, which one is it? It's a
Shake Shack.
It's a Shake Shack.
Good, because that's the one I'm complaining about. Steak and Shake, they're fine. Shake Shack, I don't get it. I
like the concretes.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's the same opinion that I have about In-N-Out Burger. That's right, people in California. I don't give a shit about your In-N-Out Burger.
Texas,
it's a cheap
too.
hamburger. Yeah, Whataburger, on the other hand, it's
the only authentic. No, I had some Tex-Mex, but I didn't have any queso and I didn't have any barbecue while I was there. But I did have Whataburger.
No, you go in and you take a bite out of your burger and you just go, man, what a burger. I stole that joke from Barbara Dunkelman from Rooster Teeth. Love it so much that I actually had her sign a Whataburger fry package at New York Comic Con a couple years ago with the quote. She loved it. It was great. We had a laugh, a guffaw, if I will.
A chuckle.
Yeah, which is funny because I was in the line for like signings for Ruby, their anime that they did, and I was like, I apologize. Like when I got up to her, I was like, I apologize. I've never watched Ruby. I just am a big fan of your pun work on the Rooster Teeth podcast. And then she made me promise to watch Ruby after that, and I watched the first season. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That was an anime. But speaking of anime,
oh boy,
I did decide to revisit the Balls of Dragon.
Oh yes.
Way back. Way back in my middle/high school early years, it was when Dragon Ball Z was being aired on Cartoon Network.
Toonami.
Yeah. Was it? Yeah, it was Toonami. The inaugural run of Toonami way back in the day, when it was just Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, I think Gundam Wing maybe, and like Tenchi Muyo. Yeah, like I watched it, and it was kind of rough because Funimation was so slow at translating and dubbing in English. And unfortunately, I have a lot of trouble reading subtitled anime. I'm sure I've mentioned that previously on here. I don't do well with subtitles. So sorry, they're sharing pictures and distracting me while I'm trying to talk.
We're seasoned pros at
Yeah.
at this.
Oh, I'm glad we already got the interview out of the way.
Yeah.
So I was trying to follow Dragon Ball Z as Funimation is dubbing it 15, almost 20 years ago at this point. And it was so slow that I watched like the Saiyan and Namek saga like 3 times, and I was just like, fuck this by the time it got to the Android saga. And they were like, all right, guys, we're restarting from the beginning because we don't have any more new episodes. So recently I came across Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is the edited down, got rid of all the chuffa, and like they're just like, here's all you need from the stories. And I've been watching it, and I've been enjoying it, and I'm up to the Cell games right now, and I've only been watching for like a week, which is pretty cool because I've had nothing to do because I'm waiting to start my new job. So I've just been sitting around watching Dragon Ball Z Kai. And for anyone that's listening, I do know that it's Dragon Ball Z. I'm just reference to the dinner that we had earlier tonight where Jake kept correcting me and saying
It was a
Z.
fine dinner. Fine.
Damn fine pie.
Mm.
Although there was no pie.
No, there wasn't actually. That was missing.
Yeah. I just had
They served pie.
They do. Yeah.
onion rings.
The onion rings.
I do love, Dragon Ball Z for me is like the gateway drug into anime. Like, that was where it all started. I don't watch a lot
It's
of
the
anime.
crystal meth of anime.
Yeah. You start hard and
Yeah, you start.
and you just keep going hard.
It's like Krillin doesn't have a nose. I did too many crystal meth.
But no,
I did too many crystal meth.
Also, not a drug you snort.
No, he just smeared it on his face.
Yeah.
Is this right, Goku?
He just buried his face in it.
He
like
smokes it so hard he inhales his nose.
Yeah. Just 2 tiny nostrils.
Yeah, into nothing.
Yeah.
That's how bad of a trip he's on. You're starting to see the effects
He
of it.
becomes a turtle man.
He's the best.
Goku.
Little
He never really grows.
but I mean like chode-sized Dragon Ball Krillin is the best.
I feel like at this point Gohan is taller than Krillin is, and Gohan's
Gohan's
like 10 years old.
Yeah, Gohan's taller than Krillin by like the time the androids show.
But like once like it's Dragon Ball Z,
especially with the hair.
and he has
I
like
love
actual
long-haired Gohan. By the way, I hate it when they cut his hair.
when Krillin has like actual arms and legs, he just looks creepy. But when he's like Chode Man, and he's just like, Krillin, you don't have a nose. Oh yeah,
yeah,
he's the best.
I'm glad they finally made a pop figure of him.
I mean, all you had to do
It was so easy.
yeah. You're just looking at
There's nothing poppy about it. It's just a Krillin figure.
Akira Toriyama should sue Funko because he came up with the idea of pop figures when he created Krillin.
yeah.
Because never before.
Never before was there this like large-headed, small-bodied chode thing.
Yeah, but my timing with it is pretty nice because I look to be about finished with or I look to be about caught up. Like I found the episodes online for like 1 through 98, and episode 99 through whatever it is airing like next week is available on demand on Fios right now. So I was like, oh cool. Yeah, I just need to speed up and make sure like 99 doesn't get deleted off for space.
Yeah, just get through Cell.
Yeah.
And all that.
Which is cool because for the longest time, like I was like, I kind of want to watch Cell. Cell sounded cool, but I was just like, I just couldn't like be like, no, fuck Funimation, you know.
Goku's fight with Cell is one of my favorite fights in the entire series. I mean, there's a lot of good fights, but Goku versus Captain Ginyu, Goku versus Frieza isn't there because that fight, even in Kai, goes on for fucking ever.
Yeah, it did. Even in Kai, where the Spirit Bomb was literally only on the show for an episode, was still
to like half a season.
Yeah. Oh God, I had when he started like when he put his hands up and started going, huh, I was like, oh God, I had flashbacks. Like the entire Frieza fight because I want to say the Frieza fight, watching it in the way that Cartoon Network and Funimation were doing it, the Frieza fight itself took like almost a year for me to watch because they every time they hit a wall, they just restarted with the Saiyan saga, and I was just like, oh my god, I don't care that Raditz and Goku are brothers. I don't care that Vegeta is evolved beyond the pain in his tail.
Nappa too, but
yeah.
no, I mean, yeah,
I don't care that Goku's been using the Kaioken the entire time.
Sean Schemmel's going to be at AwesomeCon.
Is that the voice of
American voice of Goku?
Oh,
yeah.
I will not.
And the American voice of King Kai.
Oh, it was. Oh, really? Yeah. I did not know.
Yeah. So all those times where Goku's talking to King Kai,
he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
It's like it's.
You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
That was Tien.
Yeah.
You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
That was actually one of the only things that's cut.
Yeah,
from Kai that I was like, the fuck? Where the hell is that?
Yeah, because they in the manga you never see what Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu are doing and Piccolo are doing when they're dead.
Yeah.
And the anime explains that they're training under King Kai, where Tien scares King Kai with his piano joke.
Yeah. They also don't go to hell, or for you American audiences, the home for eternal losers. At all.
Editing, guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of impressive that they were able to take something like hell, remove the bottom tilde of the E, and change the L into an F, and it became an acronym.
Yeah.
For home.
They added periods between the letters probably too.
Home for infinite losers.
Was it infinite losers?
A home. Well,
I thought it was eternal.
Eternal.
Not that it matters.
Yeah.
It was dumb.
Piffle.
I mean, they say the word hell on Kai, which I was like, ooh.
Well, they can cuss on Kai.
Yeah.
They cuss on Kai, and they cuss in Super too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is weird. Like when Vegeta cusses, I'm like, okay. But when like somebody like Krillin or like Goku cusses, I'm like,
oh shit. Look at how happy Jake looks. He's
just imagining this little chode
chode man
with screaming, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. With no real arms or legs. It's just that pop figure going, "Oh shit!"
as he's presumably like destroyed.
Yeah, for me, it's the only time that, or in my head, whenever I'm like imitating Krillin yelling, it's when Frieza's blowing him up.
Oh, yeah, from the inside.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, and you're fucking dead.
Yeah. Fucking hardcore.
It's pretty, I mean, I grew up with Z. I love Z.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Ball, at its peak, Dragon Ball is much better. Because I always liked that Dragon Ball was more about technique than power. Because once Z's like, oh, you just have to hit the next power level. It's like, oh, okay.
And they actually introduce the quantitative power level.
Yeah, they're just like, we're not even going to pretend. First off,
Scouters.
We're going to measure how much you're worth, and then we're going to come up with different levels of like Super Saiyan and stuff once you hit that. And we're going to like multiply your Kaioken technique.
Yeah. Super Saiyan God Saiyan.
Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, which they shortened to Super Saiyan Blue because I think somebody realized that Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan
sounds dumb.
Yeah.
Sounds Super Saiyan dumb.
Yeah, just Super Saiyan. But yeah.
Whatever I'm saying, I'm Super Saiyan like Goku.
But I am watching Dragon Ball Super. It's like it's
Is it Super?
It's better than GT.
Woo!
The animations.
I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Yeah, and the fights are a lot better too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. Krillin kicks the shit out of Gohan. Spoilers.
Well, that's because he's become a nerd.
Yeah, and then, he introduces the solar flare times 100.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's just you can get a sunburn from it.
He gets super blinded by it, and then he kicks him in water.
He gets super blinded by the light.
I mean, yeah.
Wrapped up like a deuce.
Yes, in the middle of the night. You getting anything, Jake?
Well, not really.
Werewolves.
Well, I'm always about werewolves. Superior species.
Oh.
You know, Because I've been thinking about, the Kiss podcast is coming to an end in like 3 months. It seems like, it's 3 months, but like compared to a year and a half or whatever, that's rapidly approaching. And I've been trying to come up with different ideas.
I don't know if I want to live in a world that doesn't have a Kiss podcast.
We may not. But
the rate we're going,
because I've been thinking, obviously I've been still listening to it on Audible. That's going to be a long time because I'm even a slow listener. Jesus Christ, let alone reader. And so I'm still working on it. I got The Cycle of the Werewolf, which is the book that Stephen King did with Bernie Wrightson back when Bernie had the E taken out of his end of his first name, because I guess there was another Bernie Wrightson. And then
Bernie Wrightson. So he does the art. It's not a. May he rest in peace.
Yes, absolutely. It's not like a panel graphic novel, so to speak, but it'll have illustrations. And I wish I brought it to show you guys. I got off eBay, and the guy who sent it to me was really great. Like it was a used copy, but like some of those guys, they wrap their shit so well. Like they handled it with a lot of care. Anyway, on the inside, there's one of the covers. It goes through an entire year. The cycle is January to December. This werewolf terrorizing this town. And one of the pictures is a werewolf. It almost looks like the guy had rolled down his window, and he's like reaching in their car, and he's just ripping the guy's face off. And the look on the guy's face is like, ah. And it's just like you see like the skin and the sinew and the teeth underneath. But yeah, werewolves are just cool. So like the ideas have been floating around. And, if you guys are listening to this in the future, you'll know which one I picked. But, like, there's been multiple ones, the ideas of, running through maybe adaptations of Stephen King, whether, it's, I wouldn't be able to, I'm not fast enough reading or even listening-wise to do, like, a book-to-movie adaptation or TV series adaptation. But maybe sit down and watch a movie or, one of the movies of Stephen King, because there's a gazillion. The other is there's been a recent Comixology sale on The Rocketeer, which, if it's still going on, do it. At least get the Dave Stevens stuff. It's only 8 issues, and it's amazing. But maybe dissecting the Rocketeer through fiction and whatnot. And the other one is maybe going through werewolf and film, because there's some really good stuff. Obviously doing the Wolfman and Curse of the Werewolf and American Werewolf in London and The Howling, and there's a lot of stuff out there. Did you ever hear of a movie called, I think it's Dog Soldiers? I've never watched it, but it's basically it's basically Night of the Living Dead, but werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's these soldiers.
It's really good.
I'm going to watch that when I'm done with this shit. No, when I'm done with this podcast. When I'm done with this. And I saw, the thing that I love about it is it's the werewolves that like stand up and actually on like 2 legs and look like fucking boss hosses. And I saw some clips, and it's these soldiers just stuck in a house with werewolves attacking, which is pretty sweet. Also really cool werewolf look is in the Underworld movies. Like I've only seen the first 2, but the werewolves in that look awesome, and the more practical the better. So yes. Also, you remember how they got Betty White to be the host of SNL? I want to start the thing. We should just tweet every day Jane Levy to be Batgirl for the new Batgirl movie. Like every so often, I'll just tweet it to the Twitter sphere, because that'd be awesome. Let's use our power. Let's combine our powers to make that happen. Let's combine our 3 power of Twitter to probably almost have close to 500 followers if we put all 3 of us together.
Yeah, and then, the official Geek Out account.
So 510. And
you think we have that many unique followers on the Geek Out?
You silly goose. You silly fucking goose.
Goku, don't be such a shout.
Mike Krillin sounds more like Cartman.
Yeah. But no, that's what I've been. Yeah, it does sound like Cartman. Cartman, it's a good pop too. I saw that one. I'm a little piggy.
Goku, you can't fight Frieza.
The evolution of Cartman's voice is pretty fascinating, because early on it's like that, and now it's basically just a little bit agitated Trey Parker. But well, anyway, that's the Taffin podcast.
Maybe you shouldn't be living here.
Yeah, that's what you would call it.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Maybe We Shouldn't Be Living Here, the Taffin podcast. This is day 78 of watching Taffin.
There you go.
And somehow we're still alive.
Jake, there's your next solo podcast.
Yeah, watch
every
Taffin
day
every
you
day.
watch Taffin, and every week you give us an update of your
I
mental
started to
health.
pull out my own teeth. The Taffin podcast.
I've decided that I shouldn't still be living here.
Yeah.
I've moved out. I'm transmitting from a creek.
Yeah.
Transmitting from a creek.
I'm waist deep in shit. The Taffin podcast.
Here's
Today's guest, Allison Duty.
here's viewing number 365. 1 year of Taffin. Click.
Yeah.
And then just silently a gunshot in the
7
background.
years in Taffin,
Yeah.
starring Brad Pitt.
The good, the bad, and the Taffin.
For a few Taffins more.
A fistful of Taffin. That's it. Sleepy Taffin. You know what's funny?
You're
I was
just reading the
I
shit
know.
off my wall.
I watched The Dead Zone, which
Yeah.
all I think about was the South Park episode, Cartman's
Taffin
Incredible
Zone.
Gift, where in the beginning, teacher Christopher Walken is teaching the students, and they're reading Sleepy Hollow. So that's funny because he becomes, the headless wonder.
The Hessian.
Mhm.
The Hessian horseman. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Did I tell you anything interesting? Have I done anything interesting? I've listened to a lot of Chili Peppers lately. That's it.
Zach, friend of the show, Zach, is at a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert tonight.
He offered
Right
me,
now.
He offered me tickets, and I was like, I have to interview somebody.
That interview out now.
Yeah. And I've already seen the Chili Peppers with John Frusciante, so I feel like anything post that is like not Chili Peppers.
Well, their carpool karaoke is like one of the best if you haven't seen it.
Wow.
They're freaking. It's really a lot of fun. Also, the Will Ferrell, Chad Smith drum off
Yeah.
is pretty great.
Sweet.
And Anthony Kiedis' book's really intense.
Scar Tissue.
Yeah.
I read that in college.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
I like that.
Yeah. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like this.
Do I do anything else? Let's see. Finish season 2 of Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah, I've seen that's like that. I feel like that's really starting to pick up steam.
Yeah.
Because like I'm seeing it's probably been trending since day one, but like I'm noticing that a lot more with people are going, why aren't more people talking about this? Like, and maybe it's like the Breaking
could be
Bad
like
effect.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
And that'll just be like, oh shit.
Yeah. People will realize 3 seasons deep, like, oh, there's actually a really good show on AMC right now. It's called Hell on Wheels.
Yeah. I'm watching. Speaking of good TV, Veep.
Oh, it is good TV.
By tonight I'll be done with season 4 on the season because there are only 10 episodes a season and they're 30 minutes each.
Yep.
I'm in the thick of it. There's been, I had an idea
The
of
thick of it.
yeah.
Nice. Hold on.
I get it.
And there's been some I kind of have an idea where it was going, like basic idea. But House MD showing up was a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
He's great on it.
He is.
He's fantastic.
Like,
What's his name again? I feel
Hugh
Laurie. Thank you. He's so good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
There was the Thor Ragnarok trailer.
Oh yeah, the one that
the one that Jake demanded we all watch because I
Metal.
haven't seen it yet.
Immigrant Song makes anything better.
Immigrant Song makes everything better, but you know what makes it even better? You know what makes the Immigrant Song even better? That makes the trailer even better? Tessa Thompson.
Lord Rita?
Tessa Thompson.
Lovely Rita,
I guess Valkyrie, right?
Yes.
Tessa Thompson. Yeah.
Yes. And Kate Blanchett looks great as Helen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is this the most metal-looking Thor?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Which is like, duh. Like what? I mean, granted, the first one I like. The second one I like some of the fight scenes in the end.
I mean, it's got
The
Christopher
second one's
Eccleston
not-
in
I
it.
think the action's better in 2.
Yeah. But I mean, like, and also you get like the full-on helmet, which is the nice nod to kind of it in this, in the gladiator scene. But Thor should have been the most metal thing since day one.
Yeah.
And until this trailer, hasn't been the most metal thing.
After watching that trailer, I feel like resurrecting the Photoshop thing that I made years ago, of a fake poster for the musical Thor Ragnarok and roll.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Or was it just no? I'm sorry. It was
Erica Squiggle.
well, that's a great comic book, a Loki Ragnarok and roll.
Yes.
But I did what was it? Oh, I think it was just Thor the musical, and then like I made like fake like critics blurbs, like it Ragnar rocks.
I hope we see so many of those.
Yeah.
In I guess November.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've always
I'm gonna, I'm gonna find that and bring it back, gentlemen.
I've always liked Chris Hemsworth's performance a lot.
Yes.
Like when the first Avengers movie came out, like after I saw the first Avengers, I was like, Thor's my favorite on-screen Avenger. He's not now, but like I still love it. I still love Chris Hemsworth. He's a birthday bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's on August 11th.
August 11th, baby.
Yeah. Getting some of that.
Get some of that birthday cake.
Birthday cake.
I'm gonna. By the time this episode posts, I'll have a piano.
Oh.
Yeah, like a full-on, like 101-year-old piano.
When was the last time it was tuned?
At least a decade.
You don't have to tune a piano.
But you can't tune a fish. It's been over a decade.
Nice. I mean, not nice for the piano, but nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I got a piano.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so
Swag.
unless something horrific happens between now and when this episode posts, yeah, I'll have a new instrument. Anyway, speaking of instruments, let's
Find a way out.
find a way out. Thanks again to Cullen Bunn, Danny Luckert, and Danny Luckert and Marie Enger. A bit of behind the scenes. It's always kind of like touch and go when we have multiple people on at once. But I think that
was
interview
smooth.
that was
as smooth as a John Petrucci. That was as smooth as the John Petrucci outro solo to Octavarium, which is one of my favorite Dream Theater moments of all time.
Wow.
From my favorite Dream Theater song,
There
and
you
potentially my favorite Dream Theater album. Potentially.
Just as a quick update, I did find the poster, and it's called For Asgard, the musical.
For Asgard.
With original music by Manowar.
Oh.
Reviews, Hail and Kill, True Metal returns to Broadway, and It Ragnar Rocked.
nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah.
But
Just in case anyone cared.
nice.
Swag.
But yeah, Regression debuts in comic book shops everywhere Wednesday, May 10th. Thanks again for those guys coming on.
Yes.
And this has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
Jane Levy for Batgirl.
That's just the rest of the episode.
Yo, wanawanga. Yato. He's a Jedi. Don't eat up. Oi, Annie! Oi, I'm a Ringo Starr, but an alien from the Clone Wars. Not the Clone Wars, the fucking first one. The Patamonis. Money. I don't shave because it hurts too much because I have a wrinkly alien skin. Yeah. And my little wings are very tired from flying my fat orb body 2 feet off the ground where I can just walk in.
Much like a bee, it makes no aerodynamic sense as to why it can fly.
Yes, but race.
Poodoo. Could you pop this on the end? This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.